prepared, mentally, physically, financially, agriculturally. Real people, real problems, real activism. Welcome to the Bob Tuskin Radio Show with your host, Bob Tuskin.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Bob Tuskin Show. Today is October 13th, 2011. I'm your guest host, Popeye, from FederalJack.com. And I appreciate Bob asking me to sit in for him. It's quite an honor. Some of you may know me from my radio show. Some of you may know me from being a guest on Bob's show here or there. And I've got a decent show for you guys prepared. So without further ado, I want to get into it. All right. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you've all heard by now about the whole wannabe terror plot by the quote-unquote Iranians. So, I was quite impressed and quite floored by how it was all over the news and then it stopped. I really thought they were going to continue to push this and try to scare the hell out of everybody. Now they are pushing it for World War III. They're pushing us towards World War III, but they're not. I would say they're not. They're been caught with their pants down by people that they wouldn't suspect. It looks like there's interference from inside the Pentagon. It looks like people like Tony Schaefer, who I don't completely trust myself, but he's kind of shady in my book. But he's even come out. He was on Andrew Napolitano's show. It was either last night or the day before, and he was talking about how he's got an insider that's in the FBI that says there's no evidence for this at all. None whatsoever. You know, and that's just utterly, I don't want to say ridiculous, because at this point we all kind of expect this. We all kind of expect, we kind of expect this lunacy from the FBI. So, during the show I'm going to play some clips for you guys, and I'm going to try to tear them apart and show you. Some of it's from the mainstream. Some of it I want to show you how even the mainstream's pointing out this story's a lie. So there's a few things I want to show you guys. So I know the first segment is kind of short, but when we come back in, second segment, I'll have enough time. The first clip I'm going to play you is the one I was talking about Schaefer on Napolitano's show, because he's the one that comes out and says that there is in FBI insiders coming out saying there's nothing in the Justice Department to back this up. And the Obama administration is, of course, saying, oh, there's tons of information to back it up. You know, don't mind the fact that I think they arrested this guy. He's been detained since September, I think. So why bring it up now? You know, it's kind of convenient, and it happens the day before ISA is going to issue subpoenas for the gun walker thing. So it's kind of shady. You know, I myself think that it's completely BS. Anybody with half a brain can see it's BS. So, you know, don't believe it. Don't believe the hype. We got an election coming up in a year. Obama's ratings are tanking. Don't believe the hype, people. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bob Tuskin Radio Show. I am your humble guest host, Popeye, from FederalJack.com. Welcome back. Now that I have a few minutes with you guys, I can get into the nitty-gritty here. All right. As promised in the first segment, okay, I'm going to show you that even this plot, and I'm doing air quotes, this wannabe plot is the story is so thin and fictional that even the mainstream media like CNN and Fox News have to cover it. Now, I'm glad that Napolitano covered it because at least he interjects some truth. He still stops at a certain extent, but at least he interjects some truth. But I'm going to play the CNN clip, and I'm going to pause it, in between, and I'm going to, rip it when they say something stupid. But you're going to hear even the mainstream media admit that this has holes in it. Now, of course, the guy that they're talking to, he's supposedly their correspondent in Pakistan. And you can totally tell he's standing in front of a green screen, and they're just showing you some video from a camera pointed out a window that says it's in Pakistan. Okay? And if anybody's ever seen the famous CNN footage from the first Gulf War, then you'll understand why I'm very skeptical about when they say, I'm on location. Yeah, okay, sure. All right, check this out.
New developments this morning involving that alleged Iranian plot to kill a Saudi ambassador on American soil.
We're finding out more about the suspect in U.S. custody. Mansour Abbasiar, described by friends as a happy-go-lucky used car salesman and an unlikely orchestrator of an international terror campaign.
Yeah, Reza Sayed joining us live from Islamabad, Pakistan this morning. Reza, there's quite a bit of skepticism out there when it comes to Iran's alleged role in this plot.
Yeah, there's no question about it. But what we're seeing, despite that skepticism, is the diplomatic fallout with this alleged plot. Clearly, Washington is moving with lightning speed to take a more aggressive stance against Iran, and they're pushing other countries to do the same. What's important to remember, what sometimes gets lost in the drama, that this plot is purely an allegation at this point. Nothing has been proven. A number of U.S. officials have come out and said, look, we cannot link this plot with the leadership of Iran. Attorney General Eric Holder himself said we can't link it with the leadership of Iran. In spite of all that, the Obama administration is moving forward.
Yeah, so never mind that there's no evidence. They're fabricating that. While we talk about this, they'll type some document up or, look, they were trying to hook up with Mexican drug cartels. See, they're trying to tie Iran, one of the only enemies left in the Middle East and the Asia area that we haven't invaded. Okay, we're not going to invade Russia or China, but we have bases all around them. So they want to get back into Iran. They're going to tie it into the cartel. Okay, they're going to try to tie it into the ongoing drug war in Mexico, which is a real problem. But maybe if they enforce the borders instead of, of the United States, instead of, I don't know, the borders of God knows what country, we wouldn't have this problem. But, that's not mentioned. Okay? So, here we go. Back to Mr. CNN reporter live, I'm doing air quotes, live in Pakistan.
Forward as if this was a real plot. They've already slapped sanctions on an Iranian airline. They're talking about a fifth round of economic sanctions. They're talking to other countries to push them to apply pressure on Iran. So despite all the questions, it seems like the U.S. wants to take advantage of this situation to isolate Iran. Iran is condemning the allegations. They've launched a protest with the UN.
I'll tell you that our friend Townsend and others have said that the briefings have been that the evidence trail was pretty solid on this.
All right, this is that, I think I don't want to say her last name's Thompson, but I think her first name is Christine. All right, this is the chick that got schooled by the CIA guy, Michael Scheuer. And he said, you're just carrying the water for Mr. Obama. This is that same news bimbo, okay? And she's sitting here. You see how he says, look, it's important to understand that there's no connection. This is just an allegation at this point. There hasn't been no evidence, that has been brought forward. And she says, well, our correspondents have been there, and they say it's serious. So if they say it's serious, I guess it's serious, right? I mean, if CNN says it's really important, it must be really, really important, okay? She's trying to step over this guy. And she's, because he just said some key information, and I'm sure the producer's whispering her in her little wireless earpiece, divert the conversation back to this, I'm sure it doesn't take much to tell. She can be told just to divert the conversation, and then she just brings up something to divert it, like a good little robot repeater, which is what most of them are. So, here, check the rest of it out.
Yes, it is an allegation, but given what they've seen in the investigation, they're taking it quite seriously. What are we learning about the guy then, Mansour Arbabsiar? I mean, a used car salesman, happy-go-lucky guy, and at the center of all of this, apparently.
Yeah, based on what we've learned about this man, he doesn't exactly fit the mold of someone who'd be picked to run an international terrorist plot. He's 56 years old, a divorcee, had a child, born in Iran, naturalized U.S. citizen, lived in the U.S. for about 30 years. His friends describe him as a sometimes disorganized, absent-minded, happy-go-lucky guy. He was never into religion and politics. His ex-wife says she'd be shocked if he was involved in a plot like this.
I cannot, for the life of mine, think that he would be capable of doing that. He was at the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm sure of that. And I know that his innocence is going to come out.
I doubt his innocence will come out.
That was Mansour Arbabsiar's wife expressing her disbelief that a used car salesman from Texas would be tapped by the most elite branch of the Iranian military to assassinate the Saudi ambassador.
All right, you have it right there on CNN. You just heard him say that his wife doubts it. And when you hear him say it out loud, how ridiculous does that sound? These guys that train the special, these special forces of Iran, they're like our special forces, okay? And these guys are I'm supposed to believe that these guys are stupid because they're in some, I'm doing air quotes, backwards, Muslim country. So they got to be, country bumpkins. They got to be stupid. And, they would go to some used car salesman that's been here 15 years. Why would somebody come here and escape from tyranny to the land, and I'm doing air quotes again, of freedom, and they want to blow up buildings and hurt innocent people so that the government could take away freedoms and make it more like the country he left? Does that make any sense? How does he gain from that? Because that's what they want. No, really? I don't see radical Muslims in Congress passing laws to take away our freedoms. There might be one in the White House, but that's up for debate. It's just a joke. We'll be right back, guys. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bob Tuskin Show, and I am your guest host, Popeye, from FederalJack.com. I've been talking about this crazy Hollywood-style, just, quickly slapped together Iranian bomb plot, assassination attempt. And I'm doing air quotes again. It's one of my favorite things to do. I just wish you guys could see it sometimes. I can't, these sick people that control Obama, see, we can't blame him. To blame him would be the equation of blaming Bush. They are evil in their own right for what they do, but they are puppets of a much larger monster. So the monster that wants to create World War III is really, really pushing for it. And there are some people that are talking about, oh my God, there could be an attack imminent from Israel or the U.S., which I wouldn't put it past Israel to bomb certain targets within Iran. We did give them bunker busters under the radar, and then it was done through the Bush administration, and he set it up so that it would take place, the physical transfer would take place after he was out of office when Obama was president, and Obama just okayed it and signed off on it and said, yeah, so there you go. And we gave them the GBU bunker busters to penetrate underground targets, which the only thing that they'd have to hit underground, I mean, with Lebanon or Palestine, there's really nothing left that's, maybe a couple tunnels. They don't need to, they usually hit those with just like 2,000-pound JDAMs and those tunnels collapse. Okay, they wouldn't need a bunker buster for that. A bunker buster's for something that you want to penetrate concrete. So, to me, I believe it is possible. I don't think people should be running around pushing out the fear about it, because again, you want to look at it from a logic standpoint, not from a fearful standpoint. You don't want to put out that fear resonance. You don't want to give that energy off. You don't want people to, I understand things could be bad, but fearing it is not going to help, because that's, above all, one of the things that they play on is they feed on the fear, and they need that fear because then it's also easier to control you. They can steer you like a puppet. So you don't want to be too afraid. You want to look at it logically. Yeah, they can be starting World War III. That's why we need to stop them. We can't be afraid of it. We need to stand up and say, this is really getting out of control. I mean, if Iraq and Afghanistan aren't enough, and then Yemen and Somalia and Pakistan and now Libya, well, that list is getting long. Now we want to bomb Iran. I mean, we're really trying to piss off the world. This is the same things that Hitler did. And I'm not trying to compare any leader we have to Hitler. I'm just saying he, at the time, controlled Nazi Germany. They overtook Europe. We're kind of doing the same thing. And just like they were looked at as invaders and occupiers, we are looked at the same. And I believe it's for a much bigger thing, more than just World War III. I think, long-term strategy. I'm thinking that eventually they're trying to set us up so that if there is like a one world government created in a world court, that Americans are going to be set up to take the fall, much like the German people were at the end of World War II. Because the German people allowed the atrocities, some of the things that they didn't know about, some of them knew about some things, but a lot of them didn't know about eugenics experiments and all that crazy crap. But they knew people were being rounded up. They knew their rights were being violated. They knew people's property was being stolen. They went along to get along, which is never good. And it never turns out in your favor anyway. If you believe in karma, never, or universal justice, or whatever you want to call it, eventually it'll come back to bite you in the butt. And usually when you get involved with things like that, and you that are evil, and you go along to get along, you end up paying for it. And that's what happened to the citizens of Germany. It's one of the things Patton was against, because they threw all of the German citizens out of their houses and gave the homes to people that they brought in from the camps. Now, I had family that survived a prison camp, and I can tell you that they weren't given a house, okay? They weren't, just given stuff. They made it back to where they were from. Thankfully, there were people that were still alive there and still had some stuff, and they were able to carry on. But there was a lot of people that didn't get stuff. It was just certain groups of individuals, and it wasn't just the Jews that had been rounded up. There were other people that had done they political prisoners, stuff like that. But mostly they were rounding up the German people and throwing them out of their houses, and that's what pissed Patton off. He said, "Look, we've already destroyed their country. Now we're destroying their culture. We're taking all their possessions. I mean, they just took everything." And that's kind of what we're doing. We go in, we bomb the crap out of an area, and then we quote unquote Americanize it. So we're doing the same thing that was done to post-war Germany, and that's what's going to happen to us when we're held accountable if in the future there is this world government, world court type situation. And I'm not saying that it's a good thing, or I'm not trying to predict that it's going to happen. I'm saying what I foresee if they ever created this world government type situation is America's being set up to take the fall, and the American people, the listeners, people like you, me, and everybody listening to the show, and John Q. Public walking around in the street, they're going to hold us accountable the same way that the German people were held accountable, and they were tossed out of their houses, and they had their possessions taken from them. and they were treated like dogs. A lot of them were put into slave camps. German military was rounded up and put into French slave camps. Our own POWs, this is a side caveat, but our own POWs, numbers in upwards, excess of like 20,000 American soldiers, British POWs that were in German camps when the Soviets liberated them, they didn't give them back. We knew about them, and this is another thing Patton knew about, and they wouldn't give them back. And Eisenhower and Truman were okay with it because they didn't want to piss off the Soviets. And those 20,000 Americans alone, not to mention the British, Australian, I'm sure there was some Canadian involved, but mostly there was probably the Canadian and Australian were probably lumped in with the British. But there was upwards of 20,000 Americans that never went home. They didn't die fighting the Germans. They were very much alive, and they went to Soviet gulags, and they were in prison camps. And as a fact, that really pisses me off because our government just sold these guys out. Like Henry Kissinger says, they're just dogs and pawns to be played with, And Mark Passio has said it time and time again here on this network, on his show, on Bob's show. I've had him on my show on Orion, and he said it time and time and time again that they look at military men and women like dogs because they're willing to do the things that they do to their own. So they have even less respect for them than they do for the regular citizens. That's how they treat them. You cops and jackboots should think about that. We're going to break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I have a special surprise for everybody. Live from somewhere in the United States of America, on special assignment, the host of this show, Mr. Bob Tuskin.
Knock it off, Popeye. Is Puerto Rico considered a part of the United States?
I believe it's considered a commonwealth still. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not in Puerto Rico, but I thought I'd ask. I know your wife's Puerto Rican.
Yes, sir. She was raised there.
So, ¿qué pasó, mi chavo?
Nothing. How about you?
Everything's good, man. I've been listening here and there to what you've been talking about with this Iranian plot. Eric Holder now the face of this all. And, well, don't look at Fast and Furious, folks.
Yeah, right. Don't pay attention to that.
Look over here, something else going on. I hear Barry Soetoro was briefed on this in June. Did you hear that?
Yeah, and I hear that they, I guess this sounds like another manufactured plot, by the way. This reeks of, the FBI fabrication handbook. Uh-oh, did I lose you, Bob?
No, I was looking for my unmute button.
Oh, gotcha.
On a different computer. But
I know you're on the road, so.
I agree. I totally agree, Popeye. What do you got coming up on your show, man?
Well, tomorrow, I actually don't have anything planned. I'm just gonna I'm probably gonna take calls my second hour. I might take calls. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if the trolls can behave themselves.
You should take some calls on my show tonight.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna do that as well in the second hour.
You're a brave man, Popeye.
No, I can always just hang up on them.
I have the best callers in all of broadcasting. I have some of the most insightful, racist, bigoted. No, I'm joking.
Well, those are the trolls.
Yeah, I love when they call. I wish they would call more, honestly.
Yeah, I'm looking at the call board now. I'm taking bets on how long before it goes.
866-841-1065. Call up Popeye and give him hell, folks, while I'm on assignment, as they've been saying.
That's cool, because I'll just click. My finger is very fast.
Yeah, but with that carpal tunnel, what is it called? Carpal
Carpal tunnel.
Carpal tunnel, okay.
Yeah, it
Carpal
sucks.
tunnel.
I have it real bad.
Well, is the VA helping with it?
They've already operated on both my wrists.
Yeah.
I wear braces. They have to go back in again, which I'm not looking forward to.
So do you have problems with your wrist because of you being a keyboard warrior?
Well, that actually enhances it. They've told me that I should. They asked me. I don't tell them exactly what I do.
How many hours a day do you spend on the computer?
About 10 to 11. They told me
10?
they told me that's a big reason why. They told me if I actually took like a couple days off a week from it, I would probably benefit better, but then I wouldn't get all the stuff I get done. So people got to make sacrifices, dude. You got to do what you got to do. I don't plan on doing this forever. You know, eventually we'll win, and then I won't have to do this anymore. Then I can take the job as the hangman a couple days a week, and my wrist will get better.
The hangman. Oh, man.
I'm volunteering my services.
Well, that's good, Papa.
But only for the guilty. I'm not into innocent people getting railroaded by the death penalty. See, it's not I don't think it's the death penalty that should be vilified in that situation so much as the shady governors and the shady law enforcement officials and judges and stuff like that. But that's my opinion.
Free Troy Davis.
Well, he's dead now, so it's kind of pointless. Yeah. He's free.
Free him from the grave.
Well, he's ultimately free, isn't he? I guess he never has to worry about anything like that ever again. So.
I mean, it depends how you look at it, because I feel like heaven's here on earth, Popeye, and we need to live our lives in a state of freedom and not look to death for that. I mean, this is the time, right here and now. Why should we go about our lives saying, well, we're not really free, they're raping us everywhere we look, but when I die, then I'll be saved, and Jesus will come, and he'll help me out, and it will all be well.
Right?
That attitude has gotten us into this mess, a lack of accountability. You know, I'm not putting down anyone who's spiritual or who has a belief in God, but at the end of the day, that escapism is a big part of the problem. Religion has been used as a device of mass mind control. Who was it that said religion is the opium of the masses? I feel like that's the case, but I feel like now, more so than a religion, is this sort of pseudo-materialist, vanity-based culture, if you will, Popeye, where people don't have religions per se, but they have a religion of sorts, a religion of apathy, a religion of escapism, a religion of vanity, a religion of ignorance, and a religion of watching their favorite sports game. You know, this kind of thing is, to me, a big part of the problem. And at the end of the day, if people were religious in the moral sense of religion and, you know, practiced the golden rule and all these decent teachings, I think we would be a lot better off. So I'm not putting down religion. I guess that was a fancy way of saying. But at the end of the day, again, I'm kind of tired of people escaping. I had this long talk with a lady on the plane, and she might be listening now because I actually gave her my card. She was very interested in the show that I do and what we talk about. And she looks at me, she says, "Have you ever heard of Kevin Trudeau?" And I looked at her, I was a little shocked. And I guess Kevin Trudeau is fairly mainstream, though, isn't he? He talks about health, right? He's got a mainstream.
Yeah, I would say he's more mainstream than others. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't classify him as mainstream, but yeah, he's pretty much he's like the Alex Jones of that. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool though, that he's reaching an audience, and the whole time she kept telling me, "Do you believe in Jesus? Do you believe in God?" You know, and I just kind of had to, I don't know if I want to say roll my eyes, but I kind of had to get to the root of what she was saying, and at the end of the day, she was very much a conscious individual, okay? And she was religious. And she used religion as a mask, in my opinion. You know, that's her cause. So rather than put your, energy into religion as a cause and teaching the Word of God, let's teach the Word of good. Let's teach the Word of here and now, and let's teach the word of solutions and exposing these evil satanic pedophiles that we have to continue to talk about on a daily basis. Well, we don't have to continue to talk about them because obviously the show talks a lot about solutions, so I contradict myself. But we have to expose them, is what I should say. And it is important because in order to bring clarity to this situation here on planet Earth, we need to rid of this evil. And that's an important thing to realize. Whether you have a religious perspective on it and you think it's Satan, or whether or not you think it's some metaphysical Bohemian Grove sort of, spirit war, it doesn't really matter. I think we can all come to a common ground here and say there's something going on and it's not right, and we need to get mad as hell and do something about it.
I agree. Look, the one thing, I keep saying this when I've stopped at the local Occupy events here, that the one thing we can all agree on, it's like Bill Cooper said, freedom. Because without freedom, you don't have the right to worship who you worship. Doesn't matter who your God is, whether it be Buddha, the Christian God, or Muhammad. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who your God is. If you don't have freedom, you don't have the freedom to worship him freely. Okay? People don't have the freedom to assemble and speak their voice freely. Without freedom, you don't have anything. And somebody was like, well, what about justice? And I'm like, without freedom, you don't get justice. So, that's like, that doesn't make sense. You don't have justice without freedom. I mean, really? You think some totalitarian type situation is going to give you justice? I don't think so. So the one thing we can all get around is freedom. And from that, when you understand what true freedom is, and then you say that alone will wake people up, because when they understand true freedom, and then they're not going to want to go back to the way things were, because they're going to understand things. Wow, a lot of times it's eye opening. Some people are, you can't wake everybody up. Some people are gluttons for punishment, Bob. But
yeah, that's true. Well, folks, take accountability for the here and now. It's time to get ready and start taking action. And I don't know that you want to go out and make signs and chant, "This is what democracy looks like," or any of the OWS strategies. But at the end of the day, it starts with yourself. Occupy yourself. Check it out on the website, bobtuskin.com. Popeye, thank you for guest hosting, man. I'm going to get back to work here behind the scenes on the projects I got, but really appreciate it. And tomorrow night, Chris and Cherie will be back with Scott from the Believers Underground. Popeye, great show, man. Take care.
welcome back. This is Bob Tuskin Radio Show. Though I'm not going to hum his little tune that he's got, but I'm sure it'll come up soon. Bob Tuskin Radio Show thing. Welcome back, guys. I'm your guest host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. I got a caller on the line. I'm going to bring her up. Beverly.
Hello, Popeye. How are you?
How's it going, Beverly? You wanted to talk about Kevin Trudeau. Go right ahead.
Well, yes, because I just have a problem with Kevin Trudeau. Years ago, he came out with that book, and a friend of mine up in West Virginia, she was just adamant about it, and I bought the book, and I read it. And doggone, I want to tell you what I gathered from that book. Most of what he said was like, well, if you want to find out more, log into my website, and you can do this, and you can pay this, and get this and this. I didn't like that. And, if you're going to write a book, tell me what you want to say. That's the way I feel about it. And a lot of the things he was saying, people that are already awake, we already know this kind of stuff. And I'm sorry, and I know a lot of folks like Kevin Trudeau, and I'm not trying to bust on Kevin Trudeau. I'm sure that in some of his ways, he wakes up a lot of people and he helps a lot of people. But doggone, he just has, when I read his stuff, it just red flags me.
Well, you have a right to be angry, and you have a right to voice your opinion. You were saying something about None Dare Call It Conspiracy, too, during the break, which is an excellent book, and I recommend any of the listeners go out and get. It's almost 50 years old, but that book is still on point to this day. What do you think, Beverly?
Well, I think that I'm 53 years old, and in the 6th grade at Indian Land High School, that was a book. Back then, you could buy books. They gave you like a reading list of stuff where you could buy books that weren't available in the library. This book came available. I looked at it. I was in the 6th grade. And I looked at it and I saw what it had to say. And I thought, I'd like to read that book. I bought it and I read it in the 6th grade. And it was all about corporatism, everything that is going on now. Now, I'm 53 years old. And if I could read this book way back then and that was available to me, it was available to everybody. And I just don't understand why folks aren't waking up. Well, no, I do understand. Because when I read that book, I would talk to my friends about things that I understood, and they would look at me like I had 3 heads. So, I can even understand what people are going through now, because I've been going through this most of my life.
Have you been able to wake anybody up and point out that, hey, look, I showed you this book, however long ago, and look what's going on now? It's almost like reading an instruction manual of what was going to happen.
Well, of course it is. But I'm going to tell you something. I learned how to do this, and I hope that folks you can do it yourself. Okay, I love American freedom to fascism. If you want to wake anybody up, because everybody thinks about money, you can show them Fabled Enemies, which I think is a fabulous film by Jason Burmis. And to me, that's a wake-up call. But Aaron Russo's American Freedom to Fascism, I was working for Fleur down in Georgia. And we live in RVs and we travel the circuit and we work all these jobs and stuff. I would invite folks over and we would cook out and I'd say, well, let's watch a movie. And then I'd put in American Freedom and Fascism. And by golly, they would walk out of there going, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Not exactly, and those are calm terms for construction workers. Okay,
that's good though. That's I tell people to do that all the time. I say, look, it's amazing the effect you have, because who knows who you're going to wake up? You could wake up somebody that actually knows somebody that can really help you. What happens if all of a sudden you woke somebody up and they called you up and they said, hey, I think what you're talking about is great. I have a local cable access TV show or something. Would you like to come on for a half hour, once a week or something and talk about some of this or whatever? I mean, you never know who you're going to wake up and speak to and where you're going to go with it. And you don't ever know what they're going to do and how, every little pebble into a pond, even if it makes a tiny little, splash and a tiny little ripple, that ripple is felt all the way across the pond. So everything we do matters. So that's awesome that you do that.
It certainly is, and I'm going to recommend to anybody that's awake out there that if you can't wake up your friends, you get some of these films. And on Federal Jack, it is just amazing. I love the William Cooper interview at the Little L Inn. Oh, you want to wake up? Go watch that. It's amazing. But have a movie night. Invite your friends over. Don't tell them that you're not going to play one of those. I can't even think of one of those names of those films. A regular film or whatever you call that crap. But just put a film in. Put a film in that will wake them up. And pass the kielbasa and the chips and open up the cold beers and you can watch the jaws just drop. You can watch them drop. And that is what helps, I think.
I agree. And like I said, every little stone into the pond helps. Beverly, I commend you for standing up and doing that, because people like you are doing that. That's what's going to wake the American people up, and that's what's going to save this country. So I wholeheartedly want to give you a big thank you from me, because it's nice to see people, with a set of cojones standing up and doing something about it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for standing up and at least waking people up in your own way by having screenings and stuff, because that's what I tell people to do all of the time. So that's awesome.
Well, you're exactly right about that, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate everything that you do, because without what you do and Bob does and Chris and Cherie and all of you guys and Will Rogers and just, there's not enough time to name everyone, but every little bit helps, and everybody that's out there that's listening, you tell your friends about these fantastic radio hosts and what they're doing courageously, bringing the information up front to everyone. You download it, you share it, you put it in their face, and as much as you can do, you try to wake folks up, and what you guys are doing is phenomenal.
Well, thank you for that, Beverly. And thank you for calling in and, giving us your opinion on everything and taking the time to hang out. We're going to break. Again, Beverly, it's been awesome. Thank you for calling in and thank you for everything you do. Guys, stay tuned. We'll be right back for hour number 2 of the Bob Tuskin Radio Show.
I feel so sorry for you youngsters today. At least back in the 30s after the Rothschilds, Warburgs, and Rockefellers robbed the American economy, many of us had some understanding of the unsavory characters who have gained control of the banking system. Today, they have totally infiltrated your media, academia, your Congress, and have left not a trace of the truth to be told. That's why I'm so glad I can tune into the Bob Tuskin Radio Show. The Bob Tuskin Radio Show.
We'll be back for hour number 2. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. I got some good stuff lined up for you when we come back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We'll be right back.
In these unpredictable times, you can never be too prepared. Mentally, physically, financially, agriculturally. Real people, real problems, real activism. Welcome to the Bob Tuskin Radio Show with your host, Bob Tuskin.
Popeye from FederalJack.com. I'm sure many of you recognize my voice. A couple people in the chat room were asking what network I'm on. Really quick, I'm on the Orion Talk Radio Network. Just check me out. You can see me there. And I threw my show page in the chat room. My show's on tomorrow night, 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check me out there. Anyway, I want to play this clip really quick since the first segment is really, really short. I want to play part of this clip from that I promised I'd play in the first hour, and I want to get this over with, about the Iranian scandal thing. I want you to hear what Schaefer said, the insider from the FBI said. So here's that clip really quick.
Yesterday, the FBI alleged it had foiled an Iranian terror plot, but the main suspect has been in custody since September. So why did the Department of Justice wait until now to announce this threat? Is it mere coincidence as it comes at a time when House Republicans, as you've just heard, subpoenaed the head of the Justice Department, Attorney General Holder himself, for his marred gun-running program, Operation Fast and Furious, which, as you know, let military-grade weaponry get in the hands of Mexican drug gangs? Or is there another explanation for this curious announcement that Mr. Holder made yesterday? Joining us by phone from Virginia is retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer. Colonel Schaefer, it's always a pleasure. Welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Thank you for having me, Judge. Sorry I can't be there.
As are we, but we appreciate you picking up the phone and calling us. What is your take on this alleged terror plot involving Iran? Is this the way the Iran intelligence agencies usually operate, engaging with somebody they thought were involved with Mexican drug gangs to assassinate a Saudi Arabian ambassador at a public restaurant in New York or Washington?
Well, it's a long way to get to a much easier target in other places, and no, I don't think so. And obviously, I've interrogated the Iranians. Two chapters of my book, Operation Dark Heart, are dedicated to this, and that's what makes me think twice about this. The American that they're accusing here, Judge, was true enough. He has a dual passport, Iranian-American, but frankly, my experience has been directly that these people love being here. Once they're here, they love being here. And the idea of this guy, all of a sudden, after years being a successful, by all accounts, a successful used car salesman in Texas, part of the community, I would think it would be very difficult to imagine him just all of a sudden deciding that he's going to go against everything he's done for the past, for the past 15 years to do this. It does not spell correctly at this point in time.
All right. Well, give me, if you would, your best estimate as to what does spell correctly. For example, is it possible that this Iranian American is a double agent who wanted to trick the government of the United States of America into taking some action against Iran? Is it likely that the FBI concocted this whole thing, and because it was a sting, nobody was ever in danger? There was never a real plot. This guy was plotting with FBI agents who he thought were Mexican drug lords. What does Colonel Schaefer think really went down here?
I think as part of it, I think the reason it came out now is literally this is red meat to a bunch of lions. I think this is why they threw it out now at this point, not in September. Secondly, yeah, the FBI has had a record lately, and I did talk to one of my inside guys today, and he is saying that he thinks the same thing. You know why? Because he can't find any real information, and he's got a clearance. So that tells him that there's something going on that's extraordinary by the fact that he's an inside, investigator, knows what's going on, and yet, and I'm going to quote here, there's nothing on this within the DOJ beyond what they've talked about publicly, which means to him there's something very wrong with it.
There you go. Explosive information. Caught him red-handed again, lying. We're going to break. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Whenever I hear this bumper, it makes me think of like an 80s training montage. I should be running up a set of stairs with a hoodie on, shadow boxing as I'm running up. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I had to interject a little bit of humor. Sometimes it's good to laugh once in a while. Right? Lets out some of that bad. Bob always likes to be about solutions as well as telling you about the problem, so a little humor to lighten things up. The first segment, I was able to play most of the clip, which is the part I wanted you guys to hear, and they continue to jibber-jabber or whatever for about another 45 seconds to a minute, but the important meaty stuff is what you just heard Schaefer say. The FBI inside investigator, not the, I should say FBI. Special investigator, guy's got clearance. He can't find anything out. He's freaked out by it. There's other people that have come forward. Steve Puchanik's out there. Some people don't, may not believe him or not, but the guy has his finger in black ops, so believe, if he's still kind of active, it kind of makes you wonder if he's ever fed disinfo on purpose. Even Cooper said, back in the day that he was fed disinfo. So, like Kennedy said, trust but verify. So, it's always good to make sure you go get secondary backup resources. Speaking of Kennedy, I'm going to play a clip in a second for you guys. If you want to find out more about what I was talking about with Patton, you can check out, I did an interview with Robert K. Wilcox, the author of Target Patton. Check out his book. Again, it's called Target Patton by Robert K. Wilcox. And if you go to federaljack.com, my website, and you go to the on the right-hand side, you'll see it says radio show archives. If you click on there and scroll down, I believe it was 31st of July I interviewed him. And he gets into more in depth about where he found out the information and stuff about the whole POW thing, just in case anybody wants to see where I came up with that info and doesn't think I was just pulling that out of thin air. So I have a clip, one of my favorite speeches by John F. Kennedy. My listeners have heard me play this, but I want to play it for you guys because I think it's really, really important. I think you'll like it. So check this out.
President John F. Kennedy.
And this was in 1961.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. Not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
Every time I hear that, it gives me chills. He's trying to warn us back in 61, people. Clearly says secret societies right in the beginning of the speech. He wasn't talking about communism. We're going to break. We'll be right back. You wonder why they shot him, right? Gee, I wonder. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Bob's got some pretty decent bumper music. I like those tunes. I got a caller on the line. I'm going to bring him up. Chris in Canada. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Yeah,
so, what's on your mind tonight?
The JFK speech that you just brought up. I have that on archives. Probably, I have actually. It's in two parts, and he goes much deeper. I mean, that's pretty deep what you have. But every time I try to send that to somebody, they never seem to receive it. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just bad connections, or just somebody doesn't want other people to know what this man was all about. I got it. Kennedy's one of my heroes. I think he started out as a bad guy, but I think he had a good heart, and I believe that's why he made these speeches, and ultimately I believe that's why he was done away with, that and the monetary system.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just one thing he did, but I agree that him coming out and having the courage to talk about that stuff, because we haven't had a president with any cojones since then whatsoever. They've all been puppets, and it's not just the Federal Reserve. Anybody that's that listens to Bob's show is already, down the rabbit hole much deeper than that. No pun intended on the name of my show. But definitely anybody, I know his listeners, many of them are the same ones that listen to my show, the same people. So, you guys are not unintelligent. You know that's even deeper and darker than just them. But I definitely believe that they took him out. I mean, there is no doubt about it. I've seen too much evidence. I've interviewed too many people. It wasn't obviously a lone gunman. Something like 95% of the population doesn't believe that it was a lone gunman, and that Oswald was just some crazy nut that was pissed at Kennedy. Yeah, they were going to try to take him out in Miami beforehand, but that got squashed because you're finding out from Judith Farry Baker, his mistress. I interviewed her. She said that he was able to get something. Somehow he was able to notify the FBI, and it ended up screwing up their plans because there was too much notice about it in the papers and stuff, and something else happened. And then the last minute, Kennedy didn't go to Miami, and so they ended up, taking him out in Dallas. But there were 3 separate spots in Dallas. I mean, we could do an entire week's worth of shows on the Kennedy assassination. What do you think? What do you think woke him up? I have my own opinions on the matter. You know, I mean, really quick, and then I'll get your take on it, Chris. But from what I've seen, he had a spiritual awakening because he was having an affair with Mary Meyer. I mean, there was a bunch of stuff that led to it, but his ultimate spiritual awakening, according to some research, shows that the woman Mary Meyer he was having an affair with, she introduced him to, you know, using LSD and opening his third eye or whatever, and I guess he understood things on a higher level. And that's when he kind of, I guess, started being more of a man of peace and not, you know, it was just more than that. But it's interesting to note that there's that, you know, I think he had his own personal conflicts, his own personal things that he went through. And I think getting shafted by the CIA, I think he realized that he wasn't the president. You know, I think he realized that he was just a puppet. Because when he first got in there, he really thought he was the president. You know, what do you think, Chris?
Well, I agree with you on the level of the LSD and some certain drugs like you know, magic mushrooms. They can do things to awaken your mind. I don't know if that necessarily is what happened with him. I won't disagree. I believe that he actually had a moral conscience. Is my belief, and he knew when he got in that he was to work for somebody else. But once he had a little bit of power, I believe that, myself personally, I believe that he wanted to get the truth out, and that's why you got these speeches. Whether it was through LSD or magic mushrooms, you know. And I do agree with both of them can actually do something good for you. I don't know about LSD, to be honest with you, because I think that was chemically made by some people that, you know, through MK Ultra and certain different entities. Magic mushrooms may be a possibility because it's a naturally grown substance that does kind of seem to expand your mind and make you more aware. That being said, I just feel he had a moral conscience, and he couldn't bring it out until he was in office and got the wheels rolling a little bit, and then he started to speak out, and that's ultimately what got him, you know, shot in the head.
Yeah, I agree. And just so the listeners know, you can check it out. I haven't read the book myself yet. I have to purchase it as part of my research. I just don't have the money right now, so eventually when I get the extra money, I'll buy it and read it. But there's a book called Mary's Mosaic, and by Mary Pinoche Meyer or it says Mary Pinoche Meyer and John F. Kennedy and Their Vision for World Peace by Peter Janney, Janney. Forward by Dick Russell, which I think he's the same guy that, I could be wrong, but I think he's the same guy that worked with Ventura, but I could be wrong. You can go to TrineDay.com, Trine Day Publishing, and I think that you can order it from there. It's called Mary's Mosaic. Now, there's other stuff I've seen on the internet, but that's the only book I know out there about it if you want to research it. I don't know if I haven't read it myself, so I can't say yay or nay. But it's an interesting way of looking at it, that maybe Kennedy, you know, he tripped or something. He went to he opened his third eye somehow, whatever. You know, some people say that's possible. Ike has talked about it. So let's say, for an instance, that he did, and maybe he really did have this ultimate vision and realized what the real deal was. Maybe he really saw how things were. Who knows? I mean, I'm not trying to make him out to be a superhuman, because he was, you know, he did some, you know, dumb things too. But as a whole, he obviously didn't do what they wanted him to do, or else they wouldn't have taken his head off in Dealey Plaza the way they did. You know, blowing his head off sent a message. That was about mind control as much anything else. That was just like September 11th. That was a trauma-based mind control event. And then, you know, the media coverage afterward helps shape the fable and the myth, you know, the official story, as it were. So they did that. They could have, I mean, if they wanted to take him out as an insider, they could have easily gotten him, you know, somewhere inside a hotel or something else. But they got him out in broad daylight, in public like that, in full view of people, for a few reasons. Like, Chris, they never do anything just for one reason. You know what I mean? They never just hang out and well, we're only going to do it for this reason. No. They when they get together and formulate a plan like this, there's got to be multiple facets to it. Multiple ways they're going to benefit. And yes, finance is one, because hey, black ops take money, so you have to replace that money in the black ops budget. So of course, it's like it's like they turn this it's like a self-generating money machine, pretty much, these black ops, because not only do they always make money off them. They obviously cost money, but they end up making usually more money than it costs to pull it off. I mean, they say it only costs $100,000 somewhere there, right? That's what the 9/11 Commission said, to pull off 9/11. But if you go check out the Promise software, you'll see there was millions and millions of dollars in transactions. Not to mention the put options, but transactions going on inside the towers while they were burning and going down. Something's rotten in the city of Denmark. We're going to break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bob Tuskin Radio Show. I am your guest host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. I'm hanging out with Chris in Canada. And Chris, during the break you were telling me you've been through the whole carpal tunnel thing. And you heard me earlier talking about my carpal tunnel. And you said you've been through it yourself. So, what, you got any tips? You got any, natural tips you would recommend? Because, I mean, I've already had surgery. I had open surgery where they cut me from the center of my palm up to my wrist on both hands, and they had to snip the piece of tissue, but it's starting to come back really bad to the point that it was again. So they think that it might be growing back, and I'm not really a fan of having another operation. I've had 8 surgeries in 3.5 years, so I'm not really up to going back into the operating room. I'm pretty much sick and tired of knowing the operating room staff on a first-name basis. So what could you recommend to me? Like, you've been through it. What would you say?
Well, the first thing is stop going to the operating room.
Yeah, that's why I'm not a big fan of that. I'm tired of it.
They're a big fan of having you there. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, luckily, I'm a disabled vet, so I don't have to pay for it. Luckily,
but somebody pays for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're going to make money
in Canada.
So.
Well, I don't pay for it either, so I think.
Yeah, that's true. You pay for it on the other end. Well, I paid for it beforehand already. I earned it, but I'm not even going to disagree with that. No, I know. I'm just saying I feel bad that I even need to. That I need to have all these operations and everything. I don't like draining, money from, public funds that don't need to be wasted, but I do need to get rebuilt like the $7 million man. I make these cool noises now when I run and jump. It's a joke.
All right. Well, can I tell you how it works?
Yeah. What do you do?
Okay. Well, I have them in both hands. I'm a carpenter. I have friends that have been in the military and been overseas. Now, nothing to do with carpal tunnel. They're back. They've been through a lot. Still, they're pretty cool guys. So I'm just out of respect. I respect what you've done and what you've been through, because I could actually send you some stuff that would blow your mind, or you'd probably be familiar with. But anyways, with the carpal tunnel, I'm a carpenter. That's what I do. And they said I had it in both hands, because my hands would go numb at night. You know the routine. I got tested. They said, yeah, both of them got to be done. And then they went. By the time I finally got it done, it was about 6 months later. They took me in for the one. They said, we can't do both because you have to use one hand at a time. So we'll just do one. You'll be incapacitated for a few days on this one, and then we'll do the other one. I went in, I got the one done, and they said, well, we're going to retest you on the other one before we do it again, before we do that one. And they said, oh, no, you're okay on that now. And I said, excuse me? And they said, oh, it's good. I said, what, it fixed itself? Yeah. I said, well, why did you do the other one? I didn't know. See, they don't explain to you that this can come and go. It's not. You got carpal tunnel and that's it for the rest of your life. You can get everything back. And when they cut your hand, they cut a muscle, right? And they tell you that it's not an important muscle. And that really bothered me. I said, well, it's a muscle. I mean, it's there for a reason. And you've had it done. You're familiar with what I'm talking about. They didn't have to cut that. I didn't even need the surgery because my other hand was worse. And they retested me on that and said it fixed itself. And it did because I don't have no numbness in it. It's working fine. The one they did the surgery in, I still get numbness in. Yes, so I guess you have to be really careful and really do some research and understanding what this is all about, because to me,
luckily,
it's more about...
Luckily, my surgeon is, he's one of these people, he's kind of the antithesis of the normal surgeon. The guy, I will say that the hand surgeon that has worked on my hands, I pushed them to do the surgery, because there was a lot of stuff that I tried that didn't work, but I didn't know about bentonite clay and all this other stuff. Which I've just recently learned about. But I said to him, they wanted to, try some minuscule type crap. And I said, look, I could heal them better and faster on my own. If you're going to cut it, just cut it. Don't try to stick some tube in my, arthroscopically in my hand or anything else, because you'll damage, you'll hurt, you'll rip the skin, you'll bruise the hell out of me. My skin's too tight. They didn't believe me. They tried, didn't work, so they just cut me. And I didn't mind actually that they did the surgery. I was glad, because when the guy after he did the surgery, it did fix the problem. They told me what they think the problem now is that my the muscle tissue might be growing back. That it's a piece of fibrous tissue. It's kind of like almost like
growing over top and it's squishing it.
Yeah, it's like ligament material.
The problem again.
Yeah, well, that's what's happening is they didn't snip it. Usually they snip a big piece out, and I guess if they snipped the piece out, it wasn't large enough, and it's literally growing back together. So at least I know my regenerative, or how do you say that, regenerative abilities. Maybe I'm like Wolverine. I just grow. I grow body parts back, whatever.
You grow scarier every day. Yeah.
I've heard about bentonite clay. I've had some people tell me about that. I got to look into that. There's a lot of, I do a lot of homeopathic stuff, but at the end of the day, I know that part of it is the fact that I do put a lot of hours into doing video editing and stuff, because I do everything on my website and all my video editing and graphic design myself. I don't have a team of people that does it for me, so otherwise nothing will get done. I have people that do IT and stuff in the background, but if my goal eventually is to get somebody that can volunteer a couple hours a day that I know I can trust and I've vetted, and then it's hard to find people like that. I've even had good friends work with you, and you end up fighting about stupid stuff. So it's hard to, and especially it's hard to get people to do it for free. I can't pay anybody like other people can, other radio hosts or webmasters or anything. So.
Are you talking about the carpal tunnel, or what?
No, I'm talking about having somebody online to help me, so I wouldn't have to spend so much time online. So I wouldn't have to, because that's what happens. I put in so much time, I make it worse myself. It's my fault. Well, I mean, it's not all my fault, but because I push myself. They made me special wrist braces and stuff so I could use my computer and stuff. But there are days where it's not even. It's not even, not even me doing anything. I could be hanging out and it just gets really bad. So I'm going to try a lot of before I let them, even cut me again, because I'm not, as I said, I've been in the operating room 8 times in the past 3.5 years. I'm not a fan. I've had some major things. Yeah, I had my ankle rebuilt, 2 knee operations. I had my elbow worked on. My elbow was really neat. It was really nasty. They had to open me up. But anyway,
Were you shot at?
No, I had a really bad, I had a really bad fall, and I had, the right side of my body was really injured. And when I was in the military, they only focused on my, knee at the time. And if anybody's listening that's ever served, they really don't care what, and I didn't want to say anything at first, and then they found out about my knee, and then I fought to stay in. They wouldn't let me stay in because if I couldn't go on a ship, whatever, they get rid of you. They're really like that. Once you get hurt, they don't care. They just toss you out and they replace you with a fresh 18-year-old because they know they have the recruiter sucking people in. It's just like a machine. It's really horrible. I tell people now, don't join the military. I had somebody ask me the other day.
You were trying to hide your injuries.
I didn't
just
go
so
to,
you
I
keep
didn't
your
go to
job,
medical.
basically.
Yeah, I didn't go to medical for a couple of days. I didn't want to talk about it and I walked around with my leg wrapped up with ace bandages because I could barely walk, and I just sucked it up because I didn't want anybody to know. Because I knew if I went and complained about it, I knew it was going to happen. At the time, you got to remember, that was my only source of income. I was much younger and brainwashed. You know how it is, Chris.
Yep, absolutely. Like I said, I've got some buddies that have been through the same thing. That's I don't know your whole story. But I got you on I got Popeye History Enslaving a Generation. Is that your website?
No, that's an article that
Gordon
Duff wrote. Yeah, over at Veterans for Peace. My website's federaljack.com, and I have a YouTube channel, FederalJackTube6, and my full-length channel is The Answer to 1984 Is. Chris, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks for the call. Guys, we're going to break. We'll be right back.
Sleep. Stay asleep. Obey. When he looks at it with his eyes, it's what we see. When he looks at it with sunglasses, he's seeing the same things all the way through, the subliminal symbology he couldn't see. Obey. No independent thought. Don't think for yourself.
I wear my sunglasses at night so I can watch you weep.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bob Tuskin Radio Show. This is the final segment. Thank you for hanging out with me, by the way. I appreciate it. I'm your guest host, Popeye, from FederalJack.com. You guys can check my radio show out over at OrionTalkRadio.com. I'm on Wednesday nights and Friday nights from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Sundays from 5 to 7 Eastern Standard Time. And if you can't listen to me live because you're checking out shows here on Oracle, no big deal. You can go over to my website, federaljack.com. I have an archive widget on the side, on the right-hand side, or you can go to my full-length YouTube channel. And I have my shows archived there. The name of the full-length YouTube channel is The Answer to 1984 Is, all one word. Again, The Answer to 1984 Is. And my shorter length video channel is Federal Jack Tube, and then the number 6, all one word as well. All right. We've got a few minutes left, and Beverly in South Carolina called back in really quick. I'm going to bring her back up. Beverly.
Jack, all I wanted to tell you, or Papa, all I wanted to tell you was, I was listening to, I had no idea you had all this mess going on. Okay. You can buy Knox unflavored gelatin, okay? You can mix it in with fruit juice, and you can drink it. It will rebuild the cartilages that you have in your knees and your joints. And another thing that you can do is colloidal gold. Years ago, I was working for Fleur down in Georgia, tripped over a piece of 9-wire, boogered up my knee, tore the cartilage. The company doctor wanted to put me on all kinds of Lord knows what, old drugs and pain medicine, and, oh, you'll be on this for the rest of your life. Oh, screw you. I will not. So I just started looking. I started drinking unflavored gelatin. And the first thing I noticed after about 3 weeks of doing this twice a week, and it's nasty and it's like snot. I'm sorry, but it is. You have to get the right mix. My joints quit popping. They quit popping. You know how your fingers will pop sometimes? Mine quit. And I'm going to tell you what, right now I can stand beside anybody out there, anywhere, walk anywhere you want to walk. I can climb scaffolds. I can do any daggone thing I want to do. And I still got the blue jeans engraved in my knees today.
Yeah,
that's all I want to say.
I want to try some natural stuff. I'm tired of. I mean, some of the stuff I did have to have fixed surgically. There was no doubt about it. And they didn't. I will say they didn't try to push me into the surgeries. The guys that operated on me, I will say I'm lucky to have where I am. I'm lucky to have two good surgeons that did the ankle surgery, and the hand guy that did both my hands and my elbow. He's awesome. There's other doctors that, are kind of, a pain in the butt about things, but those two guys in particular really, really, I'll say they didn't, surgery was not something they wanted to do. It was something that needed to be done in most of the cases, but, I don't want to have to go back to do surgery again. Beverly, thanks for calling. I really appreciate it.
Well, there are some cases just like yours where you do have to have surgery. But there are a lot of times where you can do things naturally, and if not everyone, but if you can try some of these things before you go wherever, it may work out to what you need to do. Just like regular people that are suffering from arthritis and messed up joints and things like that, it's just things that will help you.
Yeah, I agree. I need something that I'm going to do the homeopathic method because I'm tired of going under the knife. I mean, I needed the stuff that I had done. I can say again, I wasn't pushed into it, but since I've had it that I'm done, I don't want to have to go back and get a second, operation on my hands. I'd rather try to do something naturally with, either vitamins or, eating something different and maybe using bentonite clay or whatever else. I'm down to try other methods because, there's got to be ways that people dealt with this before. I'm sure carpal tunnel just didn't, it didn't come out of nowhere. I'm sure people had it in the past too. You know what I mean? It didn't just, I'm sure the amount of cases has risen because of computers, but I'm sure it still existed. It's one of those. One of those things that's kind of basic. It can happen to anybody.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. I take colloidal gold. I take colloidal silver. Not as much gold as I do silver, because that is the antibiotic. But the colloidal gold is another thing that you might want to research it a little bit and look into it and see if it will work for you. Not all homeopathic remedies work for everyone, and that's what people need to understand. You have to understand what your problem is, and you have to diagnose it, and you have to look at it. Your body will tell you what's wrong with you. If you're in tune with it, it will tell you. And then you work on it in that aspect. That's the way I do. I ain't been to a doctor in 12 years.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get past this the doctor phase. Now it's been a long enough. It's been about I was doing radio when I had my last surgery, so it was probably about, I would say about 5.5, 6 months ago now. I had my last major surgery. So I plan on that being my last one. I don't want to go back under the knife. I didn't get gas or any of that crap. I got I just got a local, and I was, still pretty alert during my procedures because they'll give you that if you ask for it. Because I didn't want to get knocked out with the gas because one of my close friends, a guy she grew up with, he went in to have routine knee surgery and they gave him the gas and dude didn't wake up. He's in a coma and it's been like 8 or 9 years. So I'm not going to take that chance. Yeah, and apparently they say that can happen. So
yes,
I don't need to. I don't need to. I'd like to wake up. I'd like to get on with my life. I don't need some stupid, little piece of, little bit of anesthesia to take me out. That's a real stupid way to go. No thanks.
Well, you know what? I don't want something like that to take you out either because we need you with us every day. Every day that God will bless us with you and everyone else. We need you here every day.
Oh, thank you, Beverly. I really appreciate that.
Well, you take care of yourself, and I hope that will help you, but try that unflavored gelatin. Just see what it does for you. It takes any natural remedy is not an instant fix. It takes weeks to make it work. Try it and see what happens. This is not instant. Anybody that's doing natural remedies needs to understand this is not like taking the blue pill or the red pill. It takes time for these things to work into your system.
Yeah, I agree.
So don't, if they don't understand it, they need to understand that.
I agree. Thank you for calling, Beverly. Well, we are out of time, ladies and gentlemen.
Understanding of the unsavory characters who have gained control of the banking system today. They have totally infiltrated your media, academia, your Congress, and have left not a trace of the truth to be told. That's why I'm so glad I